I'm Greg Rucka, and you're watching Gabe Infinity Watch. Keep watching.
Gail Samone, to her left, a collaborator on Crosswind, Cat Staggs, and down there, pulling in anchor, Mr. Greg Rucka.
Hey!
I've got a couple of questions for these folks, and we're just going to turn it right over to you all, so go ahead and line up here at the microphone. There are a lot of you here. You're working on a lot of different books, but with image as the topic, I wanted to start off asking, whether it was when you started working for Image, or as a fan reading Image work that other people were working on. When did you get into Image, as it were? Was it a particular book you were reading? Was it the opportunity to do creator-owned work? What brought you into that circle?
As a creator or as a fan? Image for me was a big turning point for me as a reader, because up until that, when I lived in a very small little farming town in Illinois and had only really read Mad Magazine and Archie comics, so superhero comics weren't really a thing for me or available. And I just happened to go somewhere out of town at the exact same time that Image launched, and I just started to discover those books at the age that Image was aiming at. So I was like I think 13 or 14, so that really hit me. So it really.
So they were aiming for the kids who like guys with muscles and bandoliers?
The pouches. I had a thing for pouches. So yeah, it really hit me at the right time, and so it was always my goal to grow up and create a book that was my own. It was weird to then do 16 years at Marvel before that happened, but I'm finally here and I couldn't be happier to be doing it.
I was unaware of whatever they were doing in the 90s. I was doing something else for a living. And I was solicited by them to come to work for them. I was approached by Eric and Eric. I'd been working at Marvel and DC. I came back to comics in 2002 after 12 years in television. And I think the Image to a great extent is a bifurcated company. It's kind of like when Datsun became Nissan. I'm serious. I mean, the 90s were a kind of a non-linear, non-narrative based, mostly visual material, whereas now, of course, Image is a writer's company. And it's structured as a writer's company. All three of the major companies are writer's companies to that extent, which is kind of silly in a lot of ways. But I love working there. The only issue I have with Image is there's no editorial oversight, so I have to hire my own editor. And I greatly believe in editing. I have a deep commitment to being edited. And I found this out in the first couple of works I was doing for them. They said, "Oh, this is great." No, I need you to tell me what's wrong with it, and I mean that. I mean that very seriously. So I hire a guy, and actually the guy who edits my stuff also edits Matt's stuff. So it's a good relationship, and I love working with the house.
Who's the editor?
Pardon me?
Who's editing?
Thomas K. I'll take that later. He's a really good guy.
Don't steal him from him.
No, he loves your stuff. He'd love to meet you.
Yes, interesting point.
But he is also a completely tenacious asshole.
Good.
Seriously.
Welcome to LinkedIn panel.
I think for me, as a fan, as a reader, my relationship with Image was like from the beginning, because I'm a huge nerd.
It's not wrong.
Buy everything. Skottie's been in my basement, which sounds creepy, right?
It sounds creepy, but it's hot.
We just read comics, I swear.
It's not helping at all.
Right, Howard would be perfect for but I mean, as a creator, my first couple of creator-owned books I did at Vertigo, which I really loved. But when Scouts was done, which was like 6 years, I wanted to do something different. And Image was like the place where you could do anything, you know. Southern Bastards was the first anything I did with Jasom, and it's like a redneck football murder comic. And it was nobody else was doing those.
No.
Turned it out, right. But that's what I love about Image right now is that, you know, you look at all the books everybody up here is doing, and they're all very, very different. There's no like typical Image book. So I love that. It scratches all sorts of different itches.
For me, I didn't have really great access to Image comics in the earlier days, so I've just kind of picked them up here and there as I went along and you know, could come across them. But the reason that Crosswind is at Image is because they had been asking me for a while if you know, I had any material that I wanted to bring to Image, and I was doing some other creator-owned stuff, but I felt that Crosswind belonged there. It just felt right. You know, no one else, like they were saying, no one else is doing a body swap crime fantasy comic out there, and Image was like, yeah, let's do that. And so it's been a really great experience creatively, but we're learning that we do have to do things that we took for granted that publishers do for us. But we're really happy to be there, and the result looks amazing.
I was drawn into the Image because I follow Ed Brubaker. I read anything he writes, and so I got sucked into the Image world with that. That's where and Sean Brooks are some of the best books out there. And so then I just started.
Cat likes crime.
I do, very much so. And then Greg's books over there as well. So I'm a huge fan and couldn't be more excited to be working on the material that we're working on.
Answer or silence?
I remember going to like San Diego Comic-Con, I want to say like 91, which I guess was Image's coming out party. And I was old enough, see, I'm older than the Van Movie Brigade, and I remember being really, really disgusted by the rampant frenzy surrounding Image and these huge
Oh yeah, the
lines,
library show.
free copies of Youngblood, and I actually remember plotting for a while with some friends I was there with, going, one of us would actually have the intestinal fortitude to stand in line and get our Youngblood one signed so we could rip the cover off and then run down the line going, he signed it, he signed it. So for a long time, Image was a company I wanted nothing to do with. Absolutely nothing to do with. And then I fell in with Matt Clark from Talk Cow, and that went horribly, horribly wrong. They treated us really, really badly, and I really wanted nothing to do with them. And then in 2009, I had a conversation with, I think, Kirkman and Eric Stevenson at WonderCon when I was still in San Francisco, and this was when I was checking out of DC, and they said, we'd really like you to come and do something here. And it took until, 2013 before we got Lazarus up and running. And I think that's indicative to what Howard said, which is, you know, in that time they bifurcated and the portion of the company that was very welcoming and accommodating to writers became very manifest. They were very different beasts. The beast that I deal with is a very different beast than the beast I met 25 years ago. So, you know, I love.
It's a totally different company.
Yeah, I mean, I love the freedom there. As has been pointed out, you can do a lot of work in mainstream comics and have no idea how comics are made. Right? You can survive for a long time and not know how the sausage is made. You get in an Image and you have to learn how the sausage is made, and that's a blessing and a curse because the learning curve is steep. You have to be smart enough to turn to people who know and get good advice. You have to be able to find yourself an editor. You know, we've had, and I'm with you on that, we have to have an editor. So, you know, I love working there. I think what it does for established creators is crucial. You know, it's provided me with the second half of my career. You know, I could go back to DC and work on Wonder Woman as a choice, not as an obligation. And that's pretty precious. You know, to have an opportunity to be able to make the art you want to make in a way that you can make a living doing it to such an extent that you have the freedom to say no to other jobs if that's what you want to do, if that's what you need to do. So.
To extend a food and a barbecue metaphor as a Texan, you know, I'm not going to pass up that opportunity in making your own pit, as it were, your own recipe for for what it is that you're cooking up. What are some of the things that, as you were getting into, that you found going through the process that you need to you need to build more awareness in your process as to how you're putting things together, whether it's hiring out an editor, whether it is directly working with color artists, finding a letterer that does the work that you want, working on your image stuff. Have you found new parts of the process that you've had to become proficient with?
Well, I write and draw my books, so you think you're going to be able, you think that's all of it, but it's not. I mean, you got to bring in a letterer, bring in a colorist. My colorist and I have been working together for 12 years, so I trust him. I'm just now, I'm on issue 14 of I Hate Fairyland, and I'm finally hiring an editor because everything's starting to drift away. Like, it's like when you get in the water and all your stuff is right beside you, and little by little you're like, oh, you can't hold everything near. But it's just a matter of figuring out, how to tell people the book's coming out, how to remind people this volume's coming out, how to remind them that when this arc ends, it's not the end of the book, it will come back. There's a lot of steps there, but I mean, the thing that I like getting dirty with that stuff. I like learning all that stuff, but it is definitely crucial to surround yourself with people you trust. If you're not good at production, hire somebody who's good at production. If you're not good at design, if you're not good at something, it's best for me to bring somebody in and help take over those elements to help make the best work possible.
And like Skottie, I write and draw. I'm a cartoonist, so I write and draw my own stuff. And the stuff that I did with Matt is often described in public as Howard Chaykin family. I package my own material. I work with a letterer I've known since I was 21, Ken Rusnak, who is the most influential letterer in comics, and nobody knows him because he's the architect of his own adversity. He creates problems for himself by opening his mouth, and I keep telling him, shut up. He doesn't listen. I can say horrible things and people think I'm kidding. He says horrible things and they know he's not kidding. And I'm told recently, my colorist is a guy that I'm rated, Jesus Wortha, who was recently signed on an exclusive at Marvel. So I got a new guy who's really wonderful. I'm beat him with the first time. So we package our stuff. I'm very much, I'm oblique only about this, talking more about Thomas because he has a day job and may not want to be publicly known. And we package everything for Image. It was a very difficult process for me to get comfortable with that. I've done this before, but Image is it's the equivalent of working doing an independent film working for a large studio, where I package everything. I have 2 assistants, and we're excellent and separate from the colorist and letterer I work with. And my editor is very much in charge. He has final say. And I've had to break people at Image to understand this. They shouldn't send me notes, they send him notes, and I should be CC'd on this. I recently got a note telling me that I need to get artwork in for issue number 1, and I've already delivered 4. And 5 is already in black and white. The problem with Image, to a great extent, is they're used to people working in such a way that a month has 8 weeks. And I come of a generation that was very seriously committed to deadlines. I'm too paranoid to be identified as an imposter to deliver late. I recently had a deadline fuck up at DC Comics, and I'm still operating every night with a flagellant sense of shame that is deep and profound. And my stuff, you think I'm kidding? I'm deadly serious. But I'm always ahead of the game in Image because there's wiggle room there, and I love the idea of my letterer is Ken Rusnak, as I said. And he was assistant to Jim Steranko. So his input in terms of design is priceless. You can see Steranko's ghostly hands and Ken's layout. He's amazing. I think the new book is a huge step and leap for both of us. It's insane looking. And when I asked him to do something, I did not get what I expected. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the most important thing about working at Image has been relationships, those relationships. I love working at Marvel. I get to work with really amazing artists who live all over the world, literally. But the bad part of that is I work with people who I've never met, never spoken to, sometimes don't even email with. So when I realized I want to do something with Image, it wasn't, I had this idea, let me go find somebody to draw it. It was, I want to do something with Jasom. He's an artist I worked with before, we're all friends. So then we kind of came up with Southern Bastards together. The other book I do there is the same thing. I want to do something with Arlen Garrett, I wrote with Scout to it, and we came up with that together. So it's very much about, I want to work with my friends, with somebody I have a relationship with, and then we'll figure out what the book is together, that relationship comes first. So then at the end of the day, it feels like you're sitting in a room with like 3 or 4 of your friends and you put this thing, together and send it off to Image, who has no idea what the hell's even going to be in it until you send it to them. And then it comes out. So it is like doing a book with your friends.
I think, like Kat and I had been saying for quite a few years we wanted to work together on something, and it just never was going to happen, it seemed like. And then when I approached her about Crosswind and taking it to Image, the timing was right, everything was right. And so we just went for it with that. But I think both of us are learning, and I'll let Kat tell you the art side of it, but we're learning that we get a lot of emails and a lot of questions that we're not used to that our editors normally deal with. And so it's taking up a lot of the creative time sometimes, dealing with all the little questions that come constantly. And it's like they were saying, we've got to figure out how to promote it, get the word out, let people know what this book is and why they might be interested in it, and all of that stuff is up to us now. And so we have to, and the great thing about that is we can be, in my opinion, much more creative about getting that word out. It's not, we're not tied into how like DC Comics does their marketing. We can take it in other directions, which I love, because I started out on the internet and started out doing projects that were kind of weird, and I established a relationship with the readers, and that's what I'm comfortable with. I feel feels very cold to me to not have that. And kind of with DC, you kind of have them between you and the readers, and even though it's more work, I'm finding I really like being able to take it in a different way.
Yeah, I actually was a merchandiser for 8 years. I dealt with promotional materials all the time. I never had to actually make them. So that's been
8 grant covers? You didn't
yeah,
have to do that
I know. So I did actually once with Orphan Black. I was 14 on issue 1. But the just like the posters, the videos, the back covers on some of these. There's a ton of material that I've been sifting through with emails and trying to get everything done. And like once the initial push started for issue 1 to come out, it's just been like a steady waterfall of we need this by this date, we need this by this date, and so it's just been it's been a little bit overwhelming sometimes, but at the same time it's stuff I love to do.
Well, and we're promoting number 1 and we're working on number 5.
Right.
And so you get a little like, okay, wait, is this email about number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Right.
Doing a little bit of mental time travel.
Right. Yeah. So it's stuff I love. I love doing marketing stuff. I love making marketing material, but it's been overwhelming trying to keep everything straight. So it's fun. I'm enjoying it.
It all looks amazing.
I'm not sure what the question is now.
It's mutated and grown. I mean,
Yeah.
things that, having to package everything yourself at Image, are there things that you picked up along the way that have been, markedly different from what you were doing before you had control of literally the whole animal?
I think I got lucky because we did the Lady Saber Kickstarter. I want to say we had done the prep work on it or something. That and Lazarus sort of happened around the same time. And doing a Kickstarter, I had to learn how to be a publisher, which was everything. I mean, every single thing about the book I had to understand. Everything from the definition of the different page weights and the GSM to pound ratio, on which you're using, and what it means when you're talking about the case versus your IBC versus your end cover, your end pages versus all of these things that I just never had to get my hands on. So when it came time to go to Image, at least I had the vocabulary. One of the smart things we did on Lazarus was our editor worked there. We have editing us, maybe the only guy who also works at Image. And for that reason, I think we've been able to, that eased that trauma. You know, I like to say about Image that they're a service provider. They sell you all the rope you need, and you can make a lovely noose or a beautiful hammock. It's up to you. You know?
Got a row of individual questions for each of you, and then we'll turn it over to you folks. Skottie, you said you're on issue 14 of I Hate Fairyland now. Where you're at in the story now, without spoiling things, a little of what I like to do is a little bit of the P.T. Barnum salesmanship of what people are making, because I'd like to think everybody in this room is reading everybody on the table's work, but we know the sales figures don't bear that out. So for those who aren't currently reading I Hate Fairyland, give us your elevator pitch on it and where you're continuing to go with it.
Yeah, I Hate Fairyland is if you took something like Deadpool and shoved it inside of Alice in Wonderland and just let that run crazy through a Looney Tunes esque landscape. I Hate Fairyland really comes from the fact that I have spent my entire adult life playing pretend for money. And then I had children, and then that bled over. Every part of my day was completely bright colors and the repeating songs of whatever terrible TV shows I've had to watch a million times. And kids' toys have those songs that are digitized, and then that just plays all day. Yeah, and at some point you're like,
That's the limit world right
you're just like, so it's really. And then I spent 6 years adapting the Wizard of Oz novels into graphic novels, and I kept asking myself, like, why does Dorothy not hate everybody she comes in contact with? These are horrible creatures that just speak in riddles, and they're maddening, and so it's a book that explores the weirder, kind of twisted dark side of a lot of the fairy tales and kid adventure stories that we've all grown up with. And you know, I have my fun with, like right now, issue 14, I'm doing a kind of a spoof on Labyrinth a little bit. So there's probably some inappropriate areas being drawn right now. It's really just it's a book for me to be able to have a lot of fun with a girl who's kind of, it's a 30-year-old woman trapped in an 8-year-old's body, and she is literally quite insane in this land that we think would be a fun land, but she's been eating sugar her whole life, so she has type 93 diabetes, and it's a fun romp, and I have a lot of fun with a lot of different genres in that. So I can do samurai. Who here has read Gru? Sergio's Gru. It's that. It's that with a little girl.
I really want the I Hate Fairyland issue where she eats Caillou.
Oh.
It would just be one page. Hi, I'm Caillou. Boom! Yeah, you would be my hero.
Until that really is the
it's
most.
Caillou's parents who should be taken out. And that little fucking sister.
This is happening now.
You're getting
I
eyes
have
on
4
one of the best
grandchildren
writers.
who 4 processes of experience of dealing with that shit from 17 down to 6 every fucking year with those people. I was so grateful when one of them turned me on to Uncle Grandpa, because at least I saw light at the end of the tunnel.
Our 2-year-old
What just
put
happened?
Caillou on for like 10 minutes.
Oh, what's that?
Our 2-year-old put Caillou on for 10 minutes.
Oh no,
And we were
yeah.
And my 2 granddaughters talked my 2 grandsons out of being bronies, which was one of the great moments of my life. It's degenerate and perverted. Don't do that.
This is the beautiful, bringing this back around to Image is the beautiful thing, because I literally am going to do this now, because I can do this now.
Get the parents.
Speaking of dark and depraved, Howard, I hear you've got a new book coming out.
Caillou dies.
Well, I'm so doped to the gills right now that I'm whatever. At any rate, I'm doing 2 books for Image right now. I've got the new book is called The Divided States of Hysteria, and it takes place just after the next successful terrorist attack in the United States. The hero is the guy who misidentifies the target and becomes the most hated man in America, and puts together a network team of people under the aegis of a fictional version of Blackwater to seek out and murder the people responsible, who aren't all that happy with the state and judgment in the first place. And it is officially the darkest thing I've ever done, and it's a love story. And at the end of the year, I'm going to be doing the third and final volume of Times Square for Image. Times Square is my favorite work of all my work, because it's a vicious street and attack on my family in very subtle ways. And it's an adult's view of what it was like to be 8 years old in New York in the 1950s. It takes place in the underworld of the city of tomorrow as visualized in the 1939-1940 World's Fair. And the third volume will be the story of my fictional version of Robert Moses and my fictional version of Jane Jacobs. And my fictional version of Jane Jacobs attempts to protect the city from this rapacious cocksucker. In that, words. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Thank you so much.
Coming this fall, Rapacious Cocksucker by Howard Chaykin. Jason, you and your cohort, Jason, are responsible for one of my favorite letters columns in comics, in Southern Bastards. And I love what you guys have been doing with that book. For those who are not yet reading Southern Bastards, tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about the goddamn.
Southern Bastards, like I said, the redneck football murder comic. John, that's kind of all you need to know.
There we go. All right, I think that's all.
Yeah.
I think issue 17 will be the next one, which is really late. But there's an actual valid, serious reason that Jason Latour, the artist and co-creator, has talked about how his father had passed away recently, so we've been dealing with that. But he's working on issue 17. Issue 18 is already done, actually, because Chris Bruner's drawing that one. So we've got 4 more issues to finish this arc, which is our 4th arc. I won't say too much about what's going on in that in case you haven't read the first trade, because the first 4 issues is kind of the pilot episode. So it's only by the end of that do you really understand what the book is, what it's about. It's continued to sort of grow, and they've expanded the cast as it's gone along.
There are notes of Walking Tall and some other Southern Fried
yeah,
stuff.
Good 1970s redneck TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, lots of barbecue in the letters page, which is great. Some crazy recipes. We've talked about doing a cookbook at some point. I think
Do it. America's hungry for it. So the goddamn is
The goddamn.
your cohort from
Well,
Skottie.
it's like if you took Deadpool and crammed it into the Bible, I guess.
Everybody in the panel is going to describe what their work is. Deadpool means what?
It's a booked Bible comic. Again, I was trying to fill a niche that wasn't being filled. It's with Arm Guerra, who I did Scalped with for 6 years. So it's the guys who did Scalped doing Bible stories, basically. And the first trade is out, which was the story of Cain, the guy who invented murder. And he crosses paths with Noah, which is a very different portrayal of Noah than you probably heard in Sunday school. And we're working on the next arc of that, which will be something completely different, just all set within the same time period. All the stories are set in the sort of pre-flood era of the Bible, which, if you know the story, is a world that was so completely fucked up that God was like, well, I gotta kill all these people and start over. So we're exploring that world.
Truth.
The next arc is called The Virgin Brides.
Gail, Kat, please tell us about Crosswind coming up 3rd week of June.
Yeah, 3rd week of June. Crosswind is basically Goodfellas meets Freaky Friday.
Meets Deadpool.
And what I mean by that is we have this male character, Jason Bennett, who is a really sophisticated, well-dressed, well-off, got his shit together guy in Chicago who happens to murder people for a living. And then we have another lead character, Jennifer Blue, who is a downtrodden Seattle housewife whose husband doesn't respect her, stepson hates her, neighbors harass her, and she basically has no respect. She's kind of feeling really down. And something inexplicable happens one day, and they completely switch lives. And so Juniper wakes up in a hotel room with a bathtub full of body parts, and Kaysen wakes up being expected to make dinner for her husband's boss. And one is used to having all the respect in the world, the other's used to having none. One's a smoker, one's not. They're just thrown in these completely different worlds, trying to figure out what they're supposed to do, what's going on, how do they get out of it, do they want to get out of it, and in the meantime, someone's trying to kill them.
They're having to sell this they're having to sell themselves as these people so they don't get caught in this situation.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and that, I've got it full of little, I've given them each their own little Easter eggs to keep track of them. I made her left-handed, he's right-handed, so when they switch, they now switch. I have a whole list of things I've been keeping track of.
It looks so amazing. Not only is it a crime book, but which both of us are huge fans of, but the things that she's doing with the body language and the storytelling with that are absolutely genius, and I cannot wait for everyone to see it because it really is a miracle. But this book is definitely taxing both of our organizational skills, because I'm writing a script where, you know, it's Casey's body, but Juniper's mind, and the script she has to know from the script what I'm talking about, and who's doing what, and then you guys have to know from the art when it comes out as well as the script. So it's awesome.
It's been an absolute study in human character for me, in all things like mannerisms. Like men carry themselves differently than women. A man will do something different than a woman, and I have to remember to switch them over. It's been an incredible challenge, and I hope you guys like it. Order cutoff is Monday, by the way. So just yes.
This is important. Call your local comic shop. Put it on your
So
list right
everyone
now.
take out your phone. Call your shop. Yeah.
Now, Greg, you've got the Old Guard currently running. You've got Lazarus X66 coming up soon.
Yeah.
The Old Guard in this writing comics panel that we had this morning, you talked about how you're doing some things differently with that. You're unfettering yourself a little bit. In terms
Yeah,
of what
the
you
Old
do.
Guard's actually fun. It may not read as fun, but it's fun for me. I mean, there is an element to it that's a great big Looney Tunes cartoon. And the main character, Andy, is Slappy Squirrel from Animaniacs. I mean, she's just the crankiest, meanest,
Unkillable Slappy Squirrel.
yeah. Oh, come on. Like, if you watched Animaniacs, you didn't know that Slappy was like getting it with both hands and drinking all night. And I mean, you know, she was a great influence on her nephew.
We're building a lot of very intense headcanon for Animaniacs.
Look, they all went Deadpool. It does this. I'm going Animaniacs. But it's, I mean, seriously, you can do things to these people that you can do to Wile E. Coyote. You know, except in a real world in quotes context. So it's kind of gleefully fun. That said, it's got some heart to it, I think. We've got Lazarus, we're doing a mini series starting in July called X66 or X plus 66, which is basically taking from the end of the fifth arc called, we're doing 6 issues, each issue focusing on sort of a different character that you may have met in the series, as we move into the next arc called Fracture that'll begin in spring of 2018. And this is to move the calendar forward, and this is also to prep some things, and also, frankly, to give some camera time to characters who have devoted time to in the pages of the regular book. And then Black Magic is back in June with issue 6, which is a sort of standalone in between the first 5 issues, which you guys may have read, and it's available in trade if you're curious. And then 6 sort of keys up. I realized when Nick and I stopped, we put the book on a hiatus, and we went to do Wonder Woman Year 1, and we were talking about it, I realized, wow, I just assumed that I had explained a whole lot of things to the audience that I never explained, and people might be confused. So issue 6 tries to answer that shortcoming in my writing. In a somewhat clever way, I hope. And then we're back.
Black Magic, we've got a policewoman, and she's a witch, and she fights crime.
Yeah, she's witch cop. Yeah, witch cop. That's how Hollywood saw it. My agent was like, "Let's go out with this," and I was like, "You're all gonna call it witch cop," and they all did. They're like, "It's witch cop." It's like, it's not witch cop. No, not witch
So
cop.
you guys gonna bite on witch cop? No, they're all full up on cops.
It's not witch cop. So we're back in August with issue 7, and we'll be coming out monthly through December. We'll finish our quote-unquote first year. Black Magic is going to run for 3 seasons or acts. And the first act is these 11 issues, and then there'll be a brief hiatus, and we'll come back with the second, and so on. So, and I think that's everything with Image. It's a lot. So.
Fantastic. Well, let's get questions from you guys out here. Brandon?
So I know a lot of people who are trying to break into comics do try to go through Image. So I guess I'm gonna have it as a broad part and then a part for me personally. One, what is it you give as far as advice for people trying to break into Image specifically? And for me, I know people are like, hey, write, just keep writing. I have a webcomic coming out in a couple months. So for me, what will be like the next step after that starts coming out?
I think if you are making a comic right now, you are at all the steps. I think that the number one thing that I just say is go make comics. I mean, with the platforms that we have to get your comic out there now, webcomics and all the different avenues for that. Image usually wants to see that you make comics. It's not so much give them a 3-paragraph pitch about one of your ideas. I mean, a lot of times they want to see, can you make comics? And in today's world, there's no reason that you can't if that's what you want to do. So my thing is, if you want to make comics, go make comics. And if, like anything, the good ones will float out there. And keep sending them Image. If you don't hear back, send another one. Keep sending them, just like anything.
I mean, I don't think there's one, right formula for breaking into comics. I think you just gotta do the stuff you want to do the stuff you want to read, I think as a fan, you have to look at this thing that you're working on and say, if I saw this on the shelf, would I pay $3-4 to read it? And if the answer is yes, then keep doing it. And hopefully you can get it in front of the right people, and hopefully other people will respond to it. But I think ultimately it's like a selfish pursuit, right? I think I make up the comics that I want to read and convince people to draw them. So ultimately it's just for me, and thankfully people, some people enjoy it and I get to make a living, but I think it all comes down to you just got to do the stuff that you want to do.
Yeah, just make sure that it doesn't already exist, something new.
I have an assistant who's autistic, and he's doing a book about his autistic superhero. He's self-publishing, and he has built a franchise for himself. The work exists unto itself. He's working on his 3rd issue now. And as these guys said, it's craft work. It's not artwork. It's craft. And when I got into comic books, you got into comic books by hanging around at the coffee room at DC Comics waiting for someone to fuck up on a deadline so you needed to. And that's the truth. That's how it all worked. And today, as Skottie said, there are so many fucking venues and platforms and places to work that you make material, show material. I mean, I've had conversations with people at DC Comics, with guys who have a year's worth of experience coming in and insisting on maintaining their brand, which I find shocking. I find stunning, because the lack of humility in new talent is the guileless self-regard that exists in self-created professionals is pretty shocking to me. But that's your problem, not mine. So I think that as these guys said, make it yourself. It's a do-it-yourself world. That's it.
And there's just so many ways to get your work seen now that there's not that many excuses that it makes sense.
You're learning something that's actually maybe the most crucial thing if you're doing it yourself. Because you're learning discipline. Because I will tell you right now, the people who die in this industry, the people who suffer in this industry, the people who can't get work in this industry, the people who never mastered discipline.
They're the hobbyists, the guys who still think they're drawing
You
comics.
sit there and you're making it. You want to get the image. Don't get the image by going, I made it here. You get there by going, I made it. Now I'm making something else. And you keep moving forward, and you put your ass in the seat, you do the work, and you build up that body, and then you have the body to present. As Jason said, then you're showing it. This doesn't work for you, how about this then? Everything you do, every time you do the work, you're going to get better. This is not a terminal career. People in the industry who believe they have learned everything they need to know are the people, and you've seen them, are the people who suddenly suck. You thought they were great, and now they suck.
Also, on a cultural level, your generation doesn't seem to be interested in working as an apprentice. I spent the first 5 years of my working life as an apprentice. I've always had assistants. I've been an assistant. And from an artist perspective, there's a great deal to be gained from working, just to recognize that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And we learn from the people who taught us our shit. I owe my career to Bill Kane, Wallace Wood, Neil Adams, and Greg Morrow, and Joe Orlando, and they have helped me navigate the offices of DC Comics. You know, as a long-haired 22-year-old with an attitude problem. And the capacity, the ability to work with someone who's done the job before you is, it cannot be overstated how valuable that is.
And you find out that you do the work. And you're doing it right. I mean, you got a webcomic coming out. Get your numbers, man.
Thank you.
Good luck.
What's your comic called?
It's called War.
Where do we find it?
So the website's going on, I believe it's pronounced Cat Static.
Oh, yeah. Just, there you go. There's your first step. Mark?
So I was wondering, with all of you being closer to the publishing of both Image and DC and Marvel, I was wondering if there was any reaction to the increase in popularity of Image on either Marvel or DC's part, and what would some of the biggest lessons you think that they can learn from Image be?
Hey, Reverend Lee, what the hell's going on here? You're taking us straight into the neutral zone, man.
You
What's
should have
happening?
put Scott and I together earlier.
I'm just going to speak personally. I will try to do the broad, what the grand scheme of it is. Mine was very simple. I was at Marvel for years and years, and just said, hey, it's time for me to go do this. And they were like, yeah, it seems like that. So I do still covers at Marvel. I'm doing some novels at Disney with Marvel characters, some children's novel. And but it was just as easy as me saying, like, I feel like I've told the stories I want to tell here, and now I want to go tell some of my own stories. And they were like, well, I'll be the first to read. So my relationship with them has been very smooth on that front. So I can only speak to that from me.
And I've aged out at Marvel, they won't give me a job. Laugh what you like, it's true. My last job for them was in January 2012. I was promised work in April, and it's never come around. So I accept the fact that I am too old to work at Marvel. I work at DC now, and then I'm writing some stuff for them right now for the new HE Revival material. I'm writing and drawing some other stuff. But I consider, Image my primary client right now. And I teach a seminar. I've taught it at Marvel for many years. I'm teaching at DC now. I did a video games company last week, which talks directly about the idea of being a professional, putting the hobbies on the side, and how to have a career, and how to run your life. And it's really important for me to realize that I represent a kind of the remaining linkage between my generation and the one that came before mine, and that I have a lot of nieces and nephews in the context of the comic book business, people who are good friends who are half my age, who will speak well of me at my memorial. At DC and Marvel both, in each case where I've developed a book that ended up being an Image, I thought about it first before I go for Marvel, and then stopped myself dead before I did, because the relationship in editorial is such that there's baggage in DC Comics, there's baggage in Marvel Comics that precludes doing stuff that offends and calls. And you just can't do it. Years ago, Jeanette Kahn kept telling me I should have brought American Flag to her in 1982. And I insisted. She argued with me, but I was right. DC would never have published a book that came out of those terms. They would have always stepped in the way. Because there was just, I experience it now. If I do an anti-Semitic joke in a DC comic book, I know it's going to get cut. I do it there just to get some attention. Just to remind them they're paying attention. So both companies represent a corporate landscape that cannot be abridged. And that's one of the issues for me.
Yeah, the biggest difference is definitely creative control and freedom to do things that you would never be able to do, because you don't have 70 years of history on something you're working on.
But Marvel and DC trade on characters that are known globally, and they trade on the glitter of being able to say, hey, you want a little Wonder Woman on you? Hey, you want a little Batman? Well, and people believe a lot of shit. Just say I'm writing Batman, and that's the truth of it. And what Image has demonstrated, and both Marvel and DC are aware of this, is that there's a better deal for their talent to be found. So each company, in my opinion, is aware of this and is attempting to address this in different ways. fact of the matter is, you're wearing a Vertigo shirt, and I will tell you right now, the creator ownership deal at Vertigo stinks. There's a reason I've never done a book at Vertigo. Because every time they come around and they say, you want to do something at Vertigo, I say, what's the deal? And they say, it's the same deal it was last time. And I say, no, thank you. I would like to own the rights to my thing. All right? Can't blame a corporation whose job is to make money to try to make money every way they can. And one of the ways they're going to do that is, we're going to keep these rights, because if it's a hit, we'll make a movie. So we won't have to pay the guy who created it. That's putting it really crudely. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Marvel and DC, as much as they love the lines they put out, there are indeed companies now for film franchises. And since they feel that we're pretty much interchangeable on some level, on a corporate level, you know, one of the things that you get with Image is, you know what? Jason Aaron is a huge writer at Marvel. He doesn't have to work at Marvel. And Marvel knows that.
Dave, the way it is, Marvel and DC have a commitment to convincing you, the enthusiast, that the character is the brand. We are all brands. My life is based on the fact that I, as talent, am a brand. But for the most part, you support the companies, the corporate nation's beliefs by responding to badly drawn superhero stories as opposed to interestingly written and drawn other material. So, you know, I mean, Image is a company of talent that's brand, and that's really what it's
And the other thing too that I like working with Image on something creator-owned as opposed to other companies is I'm finding that they seem to care about this property as much as we do in terms of trying to get it put together, get it out, make people aware, promote it in the right places, not just keep going to the same well over and over and over again. So they have people that are a little more creative about that and know how to get the word out on these books that are not like anything else out there. It's very difficult to, you know, compare them to anything, yet somehow they can get the word out. And I really feel that, you know, it's well taken care of.
I am very happy to straddle the fence between Marvel and Image right now. I'm happy I don't have to choose. I like doing both. Very happy with the stuff I do at Marvel. Love what I'm doing at Image. If that changes, then I'll do something different. But right now, I don't want to be made to feel by anybody at either company that I have to choose one or the other. Because again, I love working for both of them, but ultimately, I don't work for either one of them. I'm not an employee of Marvel. I'm not an employee of Image. I work for myself. Neither one of those companies are going to, right, they're not going to take care of me in my old age. Like, that's my job. But I'm happy to, as long as everything's cool, I'm happy to work at both of them. And I'm really happy with the stuff I'm doing there.
All right, thank you.
My question is more about the noise factor. As easy as it's become to create comic books, there's also become so much that's come out, including the fact that working together has become sometimes, like you were saying, people don't want to work for each other or with each other to produce things. They'd rather sometimes make fan art and show up or try to just pitch. I created a website, Written Sins, that actually brought creators together over the last couple of years. What would your advice be to like new artists and new talent that aren't necessarily understanding like how to really group a partnership and build their name and their reputation? Like, how do you broker working with someone brand new when you both want to break in? Like when you both started, as opposed to being teamed up with someone by some company or Image. Like, how would you suggest building relationships in this new digital age?
I mean, I feel like it's easier than ever because of the access. I mean, in 2000, yeah, exactly.
Well, we bring people together, but we don't have a gigantic reach, and a lot of times, like, I'll put this video online to show other people what your opinions are, and I know many of you are very well established, and sometimes it rings true to someone when you have guys that you respect doing this stuff.
So how do you become a gigantic name in comics?
No, not how, but that's just working and all that. What I'm asking is, like, for you in particular, how did you build your partnerships with your collaborators? How did you get to that level?
It starts where you start. It just eventually gets there. If you it's kind of like if you take everything we've said so far and Voltron it, it's the answer. It's in 2000, this convention itself is a pretty important one for me because in about 2000, I had done one comic book, my first comic book at Marvel. It was a fill-in issue on Iceman. I drove down to this convention after that. I thought I was a star, right? I drove down to this convention with Mark Brooks. We stopped by Savannah. We picked up Sean Murphy. He was still in college, and we drove down to this convention. And on our way down here, the internet was just new. Like we were all trying to figure it out, and the message boards were just becoming thing. And we all decided, like, let's start a group website and make us look like we're like a studio. And we were just a bunch of kids who faked being big deals until we kind of all became big deals. Like, it's exactly what you said. You started the thing.
Well,
there is no magic button to push. It is the people who collaborate together. Do they work together? Will they work together for 5 years? Will they work together for 10 years? John, my colorist, has worked with me for 12 years. He just got nominated for an Eisner this year, which I was like, yes, finally, he's been a genius for so long. He's finally made it to that place. But it's just time, tons of hard work, tons of keeping at it. But I think you're at the right place. If you're creating a platform for people to come together, meet each other, past that, it's up to them to put in the work. And if they blend together, if they make good work.
Well, yeah, the site brought me together with my artist on my comic book.
Yeah.
And she's from Prague, and she's wonderful.
And I will say,
The internet is endless.
the single biggest problem I see for the people who are actually willing to do the work, right? For writers or for artists who are willing to do the work required to start making these things, is partnering with somebody else who will. I know so many writers who are working with artists who, look, when you're starting out, you ain't gonna make a living at it, which means you gotta do a job to eat, right? But that means that these are people who are like, well, I'm committed to doing this issue, but it's gonna take me 2.5 years to do it. It's like, that's not gonna work. It's not gonna work, If you're gonna take it on, you gotta take it on. That's the agreement, right? And if you can forge a partnership in that environment that works, then you are forging relationships that are they're gonna last 7 years on. But it's the pairing, The biggest thing I see this over and over again, is very talented writers cannot find artists who can deliver. Very talented artists cannot find writers who can write one, who can deliver something that they want to do. And they don't know how to collaborate. And the most important thing in that beginning is that collaboration, especially when you can't really be expecting to get paid for it. Then the only thing you've got is building mutual respect and telling a story together.
It's like putting a band together. It's like putting a band together.
Everyone has to have enough passion to make it to the end, because it's not going to be easy, and it's going to take a lot of hours of work and redoing until you have it right. And if you, without that passion to really do it, it's not going to get done. And I get really frustrated with new creators that say they have all these ideas and they just don't know how to start, they don't know how to do this, don't know how to do that. You have to sit down and do it. I kept a full-time job in a hair salon for years while writing comic books. I wrote at night. I got no sleep. I worked really hard because I was passionate enough about it that that's what made me complete each project, is I just knew that I wanted to do it that badly and see it through. And if you're not that committed, and your partner's not that committed, you probably need to find someone else.
Yeah, I would say trust is a huge issue. You have to be able to rely on that partner to hold their weight. If they're not going to, then you're just left hanging. So I've been doing this freelance hustle for 23 years now, and it's always having to have that next job ready to go, not just in case something falls through, but just so I have a check the next month.
And this is so important.
Yeah.
when you enter into this kind of relationship, if you're collaborating with other people, you do incredible harm to your co-creators, to your collaborators, if you don't hold up your end of the bargain.
Right, because it is a team.
And it is manifested as material harm. And one of the greatest things, there's a reason that Howard's still kicking himself for a deadline.
Right.
One of the greatest sins you can commit in publishing, especially from the writing standpoint, is not to deliver the script.
Like Kickstarter.
Oh,
When you don't deliver your Kickstarters, it hurts.
Just on a simple level. If Skottie is not writing a thing, but Scottie's waiting on a script for me, and I'm a week late, that's a week he didn't work. That's a week he doesn't draw income. It is the worst thing that I
change reaction down the line.
It is, and it ripples. The whole process goes. But there is a special level of help for writers, and I'm serious, for writers who rely on their artists.
It should be borne in mind that I'm the artist on the book that I'm late on with the script. And I'm really grateful not to have to go through all the nonsense these guys are suffering from, because I'm a one-man shop.
It is an excuse for really like you are late. As a writer, you don't square it with your artist, they don't know, and they don't see it coming. It's a fundamental betrayal of trust, and it's the height of arrogance.
Yeah, there's also, I've had projects, license projects, where you've done all the work, and the licensor comes in last minute with a script change, like the book's done.
Yeah, it's like it's.
And we had a week to change 4 pages, redraw, recolor, reletter, before it went to press. So I mean, you need, and so I had to get, and I was doing the pencils and ink, so I had to get that done as fast as possible so the other 2 people involved in the line had time to do their job. So I mean, it's just, you're gonna do this, it's 24/7 commitment. And like I said, trust, you have to be able to trust your partners. Because if you can't, then it's not gonna happen. And all it's gonna do is frustrate you, maybe leave you without your rent, So, yeah, it's.
You can do worse than that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can damage people's lives.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the old saying, indie comics is like a small pond. When you piss in it, we all know.
Yeah. And this industry is not great about keeping secrets, it's sensitive.
Yeah, no.
But,
From running my website, I hear a lot of gossip from a lot of other people. I'm like, wow, really? Like, people like to talk. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool, we've got one more question here.
This might be kind of an ignorant question. So if you have to find your own editor working with Image and you have to kind of do some of your own promotion, what is it that Image does then?
They're basically, they're the publishing, well, they're the publishing distribution house.
Okay.
For sure. We're making material, we're like designing material, they're actually printing material and distributing it to places. So
It's a bit of an a la carte operation.
Yeah.
They will, it's a little bit of an a la carte. Some people have everything taken care of, they give them a final file and Image just says, okay. Some people, like us,
well, yeah, but even rewind that. They give them a final file. Image then goes off the basis of block numbers. Off the basis of decisions about printing. They run it, they distribute it, they get it done.
yeah, we're gonna print this many over what you got ordered. But like in my case, in our book, because I don't have an editor, but I have a production, I have my letterer also does pre-press and things like that. But what Image will do for us then is they send it around and they've got 2 or 3 proofreaders. So they will proofread all of my issues. They will set up interviews for you if you like. So it's a little a la carte. They do as much as they can if you want them to, within whatever power that they have and whatever. It is still a small shop. There's not 200 people up there that work there. There's 22 people that work up there. So they do as much as they can. They work their butts off, and it really is an a la carte scenario.
Considering how many books they put out.
Yeah.
Okay, and they take care of like advertising and getting advertising in the book and stuff?
My experience with them has been, I can go to them for the last art for Cull. We said we want to do a poster, and they said, fine. All right, you can do a poster. We'll make sure a poster gets out there. But we then designed the poster. We then delivered the files to them, and they then charged us for the poster. So they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're clearly in it to make a profit. On all of my books, I work with, what Howard has described. I now have a whole team, right? I mean, there are people that I'm collaborating with consistently. I'm using the same letterer. I'm using the same designer on all these things. If I didn't have those things, Image could provide. I could go to them and I could say, we need a letterer. They'd say, well,
We have Russ, we'll call Russ.
Yeah, we got somebody. Oh, we need coloring. They can say, well, they can point to it. You don't have a back matter design. Well, we can do that. We will infer fees. All right.
Yeah, and the other cool thing they'll do is like when my second arc was coming out, I just wanted to remind people that it didn't end after 5. It was going to come out, so I was like, hey, I kind of want to send shops free posters to any shop that wanted them. And it was like, cool, we'll split that with you. So Image takes up half the cost. I pony up half the cost, and we print up a couple thousand posters and distribute them to 6,000 posters I think to bookstores and comic shops for free, just so they can hang in their shop and remind people that the book's coming back. So things like that, that's an outreach that I just had an idea one day. I was like, I don't even know if this is a possibility. Or like, hey, I kind of want to do like an art book, but like coloring books are kind of big. Your style looks like, I was like, oh, cool, let's do a coloring book. And so they're real open for things like that and fun stuff. So.
Well, they seem to be pretty good at getting the message out to the retailers, because ultimately that's who's buying the books, and that's who needs to know about the books and when to order them and let their customers know. And I think, from what I've seen, Image just seems to have a real knack for getting the information to the right people.
Thank you. Cool. To wrap things up, real quick, down the row, an Image book that you have nothing to do with, that you think is great, that you think is fantastic, Scotty?
My favorite comic maybe ever is I Kill Giants by Joe Kelly and Jasom. So it's one of my favorite books that I've ever read. I own it. Every time I see it, I buy it, and I give it to somebody when they come to my house. So I've purchased it probably 30 times.
I will not play favorites. I will not name names.
Diplomatic.
I'll name a name. I love anything Greg does.
Hey.
I'm not gonna,
Yeah, it is tough, but I really like Marjorie Lou's Monsters.
Right now, my absolute favorite book is Velvet, Brubaker. Yeah, Stephen, that's my hands down my favorite. And Lazarus by Greg. Those are the two I like reading.
I'm really excited for Pitch Planet to come back. I'm pretty deadly, but I love an Angry Kelly Sue. I love me some Angry Kelly Sue.
Well, if that isn't bias, coming from her D&D, the Dungeon Master, I don't know what it is. Let's hear it one more time for our panelists. They're here all
Thank you. Read Pitch Planet.